Hello to everyone in the internet, and welcome to Monday, maggots. Don't let the politicians step on you. February 4th. I'm Nathan Washington, you're watching Culture Shock, the only show on the internet that knows how to separate an issue of culture from an issue of politics. And this is the news in 2019. Alright everybody, so there's been a media blackout on a woman who appears to have outed John of God. For those of you who don't know, brief history, John of God is a Brazilian faith healer that claimed to have had many celebrity clients, including the Clintons, both Bill and Hillary. Faith healing doesn't work, sorry. But the journalist was by the name of Sabrina Bittencourt. And this story is rare in the English-speaking world. The source I looked at for this was literally in Spanish. I had to translate the whole fucking page. But the timing of this death is simply too convenient. And 38-year-olds don't just drop dead after all. And what's even better is she died in the city of Barcelona, Spain, where John of God was living at the time. Seems awfully convenient, don't you think? And she dies not long after she releases her expose, factual or not. And the group Victims United reported this with regret that the death of Sabrina de Campos Bittencourt occurred 9 p.m. this Saturday, February 2nd, again, in the city of Barcelona, Spain, where John of God lived. The activist committed suicide and left a farewell letter, stating the reasons for taking her own life. Bittencourt also wrote a farewell post on Facebook. Moriela, I join you. I did what I could, as far as I could. My love will be eternal for all of you. Sorry to not bear it, my children. Last December, the activist gave an interview to Fred Melo-Palva, editor of Carta Capital, in which she recounts her life story and her role in the denunciations of religious leaders who commit abuse. Then promised to unmask 13 more leaders that year. John of God had been successfully accused by Bittencourt for mass murder, running a child sex ring, and human trafficking. And he was arrested for crimes related to those accusations. So it's not like she was going on absolutely nothing. If the letter she supposedly left was in someone else's handwriting, they should maybe look into that. And as to the Facebook post, well, someone could have just hacked onto her computer and got into her account and wrote that. So I think that can be dismissible. Bottom line is, even if she did write it, maybe she was driven to suicide. Maybe someone in John of God's circle pushed her to commit suicide. The timing of this is just way too convenient. So you really gotta wonder about this. Still, the true details of this are far from clear, but the timing of it is real suspicious. And it definitely makes John of God look real bad. Which is probably why the media, again, decided to black it out. This time, somewhat more successfully than normal. Luca De Ambroggi says that AI will take over the world. I knew it! Skynet's on its way! Luca De Ambroggi cites how certain jobs and areas of life were changed forever due to computers and the Industrial Revolution. That is absolutely true. Some people lost their jobs and sometimes even their livelihood because of progress. That's just the downside of things, unfortunately. According to him, he says, this era is generic. Multimodal AI, it is comparable to human intelligence applied in all senses, working powerfully in parallel. For example, from the sensing perspective, electronics and semiconductor support, to the ability to see, hear, touch, as well as smell and taste with the latest MEMS technologies. We need to go back into ethics. It is a common view that AI and AI-driven robots will increase business and wealth all over the world. It is again up to the regulator and administrator to be sure that all humans will benefit of it and not a few corporations. To me, the implications of AI, we're literally looking at creating a new type of life form that is mechanical as opposed to biological. We are literally talking about conceiving of a consciousness. And no one seems to have a legitimate answer to what I dub, as a philosopher, the Lucifer problem. And as again, I am not a Christian. In fact, I don't really like the beliefs of Christianity. Never really sat well with me on an emotional or profound level. But admittedly, the story of Lucifer does strike a chord. Someone who decides that, he doesn't need God, he's better than God, and wants to replace God. What's to stop artificial intelligence from creating the same notion concerning human beings? What is to prevent that? What if AI decides that it's better than humans, don't need humans, and decides it wants to replace humans? What guarantee is there in place to keep that from becoming a thing? I've asked that question to many AI designers, the few that I know, and they have yet to come up with a meaningful answer. Surprise, surprise. It is a very conceivable problem. I'm not saying that's got a lot of evidence to say that it would be a thing, but there's nothing getting in the way of saying it wouldn't be a thing. It is entirely possible. It is entirely conceivable that artificial intelligence could decide, humans? Who needs them? And even then, what about the opposite side of the coin? What if we decide to enslave and violate certain rights of the artificial intelligence, not as a life form? What if we decide to start abusing it? The implications are heavy. And I think we should proceed very carefully into this new frontier. And I agree with Luca De Ambroggi, particularly if we can consider remaining within the realm of ethics and not, charging full steam ahead as usual. Excuse me. Moving on. Professor Daniel Pollock-Pelsner declares that Mary Poppins is racist because of the chimney sweep scene. Compares the soot-covered faces to like blackface. Of course, they're always going to make that comparison. Their faces were dirty from going through a fucking chimney. And she comically smudges it around a bit, And then there's some like slurs that he colors as being racist, So what? People have the right of free speech. It's just comedy. People like this guy are overly sensitive about racism and try to make everything into a bigger issue than it really is or needs to be. Sure, it's inappropriate. Sure, it's in bad taste. But you know what? The alternative is unacceptable. You can't just suppress someone else's free speech when you don't like what they have to say. You can shame them for it, maybe explain to them why it was wrong, but in the end, if you're suppressing their right to say it, for one thing, you're against the spirit of America, you are against the Constitution, and you are violating their rights, which is worse than what they did. No one was really hurt if it was truly racist, and even then, it's probably not. It was probably just some silly thing in a fucking kids' comedy film made by the Walt Disney Corporation. So, this guy, Daniel Pollock-Pelsner, he's just another overly sensitive snowflake, as far as I'm concerned. Moving on, people think that Northam Medical School student once wore blackface. because there's a person in a photo in a yearbook wearing some gaudy plaid pants. They were very tasteless, awful. Both in that photo and the photo of someone supposedly wearing blackface. It looked like it could have been a black person to me. And a class photo. You know, the pants appeared that in the supposed blackface photo and the pants photo, both photos which appeared in the yearbook. Now, admittedly, in the photo of supposed blackface, there was also a gentleman in a KKK costume. Although it looks slightly more phallic than usual. You know, the top of the hat was a little long and, you know. But, just because the same gaudy pants appeared in two photos. The funny thing about that, let's play devil's advocate for a second here. You do realize that a given design of pants can be used twice on two different pairs of pants, right? Oh, gee, you know, that didn't occur to you. And you might say, oh, gee, in this photo it must be blackface because it's darker than usual. I've actually seen black foreign exchange students from Africa that were pretty freaking dark. Mind you, it's a strong possibility that it was actually true, but it's just as possible that it was not. It, to me, is like a 60-40 kind of thing. 60 in favor that it actually was, 40 in favor that it actually was not. A genuine case of a blackface photo. And even if it was, so what? It happened way back in the past. You know, it's over with, it's done with. You know, stop drudging up the past to attack the present. Just stop it. People change. That was once upon a time. This is 2019, not 1970, whatever. Get over it. Greg Pladdock was bounced from a bar and then sued, and then tried to sue the bar in New York court. He was bounced for wearing a MAGA hat, of course, and he tried to claim a religious argument. This is where it gets weird. Stating that wearing the hat and praying at a 9/11 memorial was part of his spiritual practice. Like, he tried to cite Trump support as a religion. And even his lawyer claimed that it was like a religion of one. And I'm just like, what in the actual fuck? Like, I agree that maybe bouncing someone from a bar just for wearing a MAGA hat is stupid. But at the same time, if the actual owner of the bar was the one who ordered your removal, they have the right to refuse service to anyone for any reason they choose. They have that right, as stupid as it may seem. And therefore, you have no legal precedent to sue anyway. You want to drink wearing your MAGA hat? Go to another bar. Or just take it off. Getting sued, trying to sue them and getting laughed out of court isn't worth the effort. And good luck with your spiritual practice of Trump worship. If I didn't know any better, I would say this was actually a leftist who did this as part of an attempt to try and make people who wear MAGA hats look bad. Moving on to our final story today. 200 pounds of meth and 3,500 pounds of cannabis, valued around $2 million, has been seized at the U.S.-Mexico border. Jose Jaime Garcia Lopez, Yoni Ontiveros Torres, and Ruben Espericueta Jimenez were using vehicles with fictitious license plates and other similar tactics to get along our southern border with Mexico and distribute these drugs illegally. And they say there isn't a migrant problem. Between migrants coming over to get registered to vote illegally and drug and human trafficking, boy, do we ever need that wall. But I'd say this was a pretty big bust by the Texas sheriffs. Good job. That was a lot of freaking drugs. And this was a big bust, too. I'm telling you, man. Anyway, that's it for Culture Shock today, folks. I'm out.